Okay. We are going to be talking about life after a toxic relationship. So, if you feel that you are in a toxic relationship or have been in a toxic relationship or know someone that has been into a toxic relationship or you have no idea what it sounds like or look like, then you need to stay tuned. Pay attention, sit down, relax, get your glass of water, and let's have this conversation because we have Kelly right here with us. And Kelly have a page on Instagram and where she say why I stayed silent. And that is something that many women do when they are into a toxic relationship. But instead of me talking, because you know I can talk a lot, I am going to shut up. But my name, before I shut up, because that is impossible, is Sandra Graves. And if you notice another person here, is Sophia London. She is also a life coach, and we are going to learn something today from Kelly. And then, of course, like most women will do, we're going to be asking questions. So, Kelly, all yours.
Hi. So I do have to just tell everyone I'm not an expert, but I have experience. So I started my Instagram page just to share my experience because I was accused of making up all of the abuse that happened to me. And I realized that by not telling anyone what had been going on, the only person I protected was my abuser. And so my goal with my Instagram is to share my story so that other people feel they can share their story so that we're not quiet and the abusers aren't protected. So that's where the name for my account came from. And that's just why I share my story. So
Okay, so let's begin with the story. Before we actually run into the story, let's get the content of the context of what the story is about. So, where do we begin?
So I was young. I didn't date a lot. I had low self-esteem. I was really tall and awkward. I had bad skin, really bad acne. And I just always felt like I was the ugly duckling amongst my friends. And so I just didn't have a lot of self-esteem. I didn't date a lot. And so when I was 21, I met a guy and he pursued me. And he was one of the few people that had ever just pursued me. And I was just like, oh, he really likes me. And I'd never been in a relationship or had a boyfriend. And so I didn't know what to expect, so I thought this man just was just perfect for me. I thought he was my soulmate. I thought he was the one because he was just saying everything I wanted to hear. And I just thought it was just going to be this perfect little fairy tale. So we had to do a little bit of long distance when we were dating, and we wrote each other because this was back before everyone had cell phones and texting was big. So we wrote each other letters and emails and talked on the phone a lot. And he was just wonderful. And I thought, he was perfect for me. And before we got married, we only had 2 arguments, and they were pretty bad, loud arguments because I'm kind of a loud person. I have 2 deaf sisters, and we always say they're just deaf enough to be annoying. So we have to be really loud. So I'm just a loud person. And so these arguments were loud, and there was only 2 of them though. And I thought they were just typical. Everyone has an argument, nobody's perfect. No relationship
Yeah.
is going to have 0 conflict. So it wasn't a big deal to me. And we got married, and we drove away from the ceremony with just married on the back of the car. I was in a big wedding dress and I was so happy, and we drove away, and he started screaming at me and just yelling at me. And I was crying because I was like, where is this coming from? He's never said anything like this to me before. And he was mad that I had made the whole day about me, that I made us take too long to take pictures because I wanted everything to just be about me. And he said, you're not a princess. You don't deserve to be treated like one. And how dare you ruin this day? And I was just flabbergasted. I had no idea where this had come from. And he had never acted like this before. And so I just thought this was so out of character. So I didn't know what to do. And he calmed down and he apologized and said, I'm so sorry. That came out of nowhere. I was so stressed about the day that he said, I'm so sorry. Let's just put it behind us. And so I had never seen that kind of behavior. So I assumed that his baseline was the happy, sweet, perfect guy I'd met. However, this just was the start of the pattern where he would do something horrible like that, yell, scream at me, say something mean to me. And then he would apologize. And so I'd be like, oh, okay, he said he was sorry. And we'd go back to normal. Or so what I thought was normal, honestly, his normal was really the mean guy. He just had been putting on the show for me. And that's what happens to a lot of people. They say what they think you want to hear, and you fall in love with them. and you think everything's wonderful. So then when they act like the mean guy, you think, oh, this isn't him. The nice guy is him. So I was married to him for 12 years, almost 12 or 13 years almost. And it just was a game of just mind games constantly. He would say mean things to me, but he would also be nice. We also had really good times. So it wasn't that it was just mean horribleness all the time. Because if he was mean all the time, I wouldn't have stayed. But he would go back and forth. And so that's just a pattern that abusers use, because they know that that's how it's called intermittent reinforcement. So it's like gambling. When you're gambling and you win, you're like, yes, I just won. So you keep playing thinking you're going to win again. And it's not a pattern. There's no pattern of winning. It's just very intermittent when you win, but that winning keeps you thinking, oh, okay, it'll be good. It'll be good. So I'll keep going. So it's kind of like that when you're in an abusive relationship.
Wow.
And so I was in that for 12, 13 years. And I never thought I was abused. I never thought I was a domestic violence victim. Even after I got divorced and left him, I just didn't think I was. But I was being mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, you name it, any kind of way he could abuse me, he did. I always say I was only physically abused 3 times, but that's 3 times too many. So, mostly what it was financial abuse, and just very, very controlling. And a lot of people don't realize what financial abuse is. For me, he would control the money so tightly that if I spent more than $5 at McDonald's for food, I would come home, I would be yelled at. He'd scream at me. I would be in so much trouble. So if I spent any money, it was just utter panic. Like, how much trouble am I going to get in for this? He's going to yell at me. It's going to be a big argument. It's going to be miserable. So
can I ask you a question? How old were you when you married him, and how old was he? Like, there's a big difference in age or in it?
No, I was 21 when I met him. He was a year younger than me at 20. We didn't get married till I was 23, almost 24. And so I don't want to say I was super young, but I was kind of sheltered and just didn't have a lot of experience in life. And so I fell for his little stick, hook, line, and sinker.
So did he ever hit you? When you first got married, he actually hit you?
So when we first got married, we'd probably been married between a year and 2 years. It was within the first 2 years. I remember we were on a vacation. We were taking a little road trip. We were going to stop and see my grandparents down outside of Vegas, and then head on to California and go to Disneyland or a cruise or something. And we were driving. We were almost to my grandparents' house, and we weren't fighting. We weren't screaming. We were just kind of having a little discussion. And I guess I said something he didn't like, and he reached over. He reached over, just took my head and slammed it like that. And it came out of nowhere. And he shoved so hard that my head slammed into the side of the seatbelt. And I remember hitting so hard, and I was just horrified, and it hurt, and I was scared. So I jumped in the back seat and just sat there and held my head and cried. And I yelled at him, and I was like, how dare you do that? And I said, we're almost to my grandparents' house, and I'm crying, and it's a big mess. And I was horrified. And he apologized, said, oh, I'm sorry. I just meant to shove you a little bit. I didn't mean to do it that hard. It just happened. I'm so sorry. And I remember just sitting in the back seat, and I didn't even know what to do. And I think I was more embarrassed that my grandparents would find out that this had happened to me. And we were on this trip that I wanted to take, and I didn't know what to do. So I just kind of said, I just yelled at him, and we stopped at a gas station. And I think I finally got back in the front seat, and we went on the trip and acted like it had never happened. So that was the first time it happened. And then the second time.
And how soon after did it happen again? How soon after?
Years. So it probably was another 3 or 4 years. And we were arguing, and he thought I was leaving the house. And I don't know if he just didn't want me to leave, or if he thought I was leaving to tell someone that we were arguing and he was being awful. Because it had happened before where we were arguing, and I tried to leave the house, and he didn't want me to leave, and he took my keys and said, no, you don't need to drive when you're this upset. Like, that was what he was saying. But I remember I left, and I wasn't trying to leave the house. I just went out to the garage. We were in this middle of this big fight, and I went out to the garage just to clear my head and just get away from him, because he liked to, what I call, poke the bear. And he wouldn't stop annoying me until I was just a screaming, raging mess. And then he would say, you're crazy, and did that all the time. So the arguments would always escalate. So I wanted to get away from him because he just wouldn't stop. So I went to the garage, and he followed me, and I don't know how it happened. I think he thought I was he went to grab my keys or something, but he ended up putting me in a chokehold. And I remember I literally could not breathe. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to die at this point. I cannot breathe. And so I reached down, and there was a set of golf clubs next to me. So I grabbed the golf club and I just grabbed it and reached back and started trying to hit him to get him off of me. And that let him, he got scared and let go of me and I could breathe. And I got really angry and I hit the garage door with the golf club and I said, leave me alone. Don't touch me again. And I ran out of the room. So that was the second time it was physical. And then it didn't happen again for another 5 years. And the last time was in, well, maybe it was about 6 years, 5, 6 years. The next time was in 2017. So yeah, 5 years. And we were having another fight. And I remember I was just begging him to be kind. I said, why can't you just be kind to me? Because he would say just such awful things to me. It was never nice. And I was begging him to be kind. And he wouldn't stop. And I went up behind him. He was in the kitchen making himself a sandwich because, apparently this wasn't as upsetting to him as it was to me. So he was just hanging out at the kitchen counter making a sandwich. And I went up behind him and I kind of like pummeled my hands on his back, not hard. And it wasn't to beat him. It was just like I was so frustrated. And I was like, why can't you just be nice to me? And he turned around and just punched me right across the face. And I wasn't expecting it once again. And it came out of nowhere. So I didn't brace myself because I didn't know he was going to turn around. I thought maybe he was turning around to apologize, but he just turned around, punched me, and I flew back, went face down under the kitchen table, and it hurt so bad. I remember just and I was horrified that he would do that. And I was more scared than anything, I remember, because I thought, oh my gosh, if he could punch me like that, what else is he planning on doing? And he's already done it once now. Who's to say he's not going to do it again? So I was able to pull myself up off the kitchen floor and I went to the living room and sat on the floor and just held my face because it just hurt so bad. And I was crying and I thought I should call the police, but I didn't, because I thought if the police comes, what if he goes to jail? We'd have to pay to get him out of jail. What if this affects his job? What if it just causes all these problems for us? And I thought the police and a police report would cause us more problems than anything. So I just sat there crying, and he came out to the living room and he squatted down next to my face and said, let me look. And he moved my hair and he saw it and he said, you shouldn't have touched me. And then he walked off to get ice. And I was just like, oh no. And I walked on eggshells for a very long time after that. And I said, because I was just worried that what else is he going to do now? And so I knew not to get him mad because I thought, well, he's going to do it again. And thankfully he never did it again. And I remember after a while, I said to him, we started getting in an argument another time. And I said to him, if you ever touch me again, I will divorce you and take you for every penny you're worth. And money was very important to him. Like I said, he was financially controlling. And so I think that got to him and he knew, oh no. And then also I took him to our church bishop and I said, he punched me in the face and I wanted him to be held accountable and I wanted people to know so it wouldn't happen again. And so we kind of had a little bit of counseling, and I remember the bishop said, we need to work on your relationship. Tell me something you like about Kelly. And my ex said, I don't like anything about her. And the bishop said, there's not one thing you can think of that you like about her. And he said, no, I'm mad at her right now. I don't like her. There's not one nice thing I can think of to say about her. And he did come back with a list, because I think the bishop gave him the assignment. Think of 10 nice things that you like about each other. So I think after a couple of weeks, he came up with a list. And I remember they were pretty stupid things. They weren't things that I thought, oh, he really loves me. I remember thinking, that's it. But right around the time I started my Instagram account and, or changed the name to my Instagram account about why I stayed silent, I was looking for documentation because I realized, oh, I never told anyone about this except maybe my bishop and another friend, about him punching me. And so I thought, well, I can call up these people that I did tell and I'll have them write it down, what they heard. And, because he did admit to the bishop that he punched me in the face. So I thought, well, I'll call the bishop. So I messaged him and said, hey, I just was wondering if you would write down what, happened, just your dialogue. And I tried not to say too much because I wanted it to be his words. So it wasn't me coaching him. And he messaged back and said, oh, I don't remember that. He said, I do remember you guys being equally hard on each other. And I was so horrified. And I just thought, are you kidding me? If somebody came and told me they'd punched their wife in the face, I'd remember that. But he just was like, I don't know. And so it was that moment that I realized me being quiet and telling nobody about this and just keeping silent because I was embarrassed or because I didn't want to, that did me no good. And I just like me not calling the police. Had I had a police report, I could have said, oh, here's the police report. The police came and he admitted I had nothing like that. And so So yeah, that was the extent of the physical violence. So I do feel lucky that it wasn't happening all the time. However, I always say I was only physically abused 3 times, but it happened. I was just because it wasn't happening every day didn't mean it didn't happen. So
Hmm. So what made you decide that you wanted out? When did you decide that you wanted out?
I had threatened divorce so many times over the years. And this is something I've been working on lately with myself, is that I have a tendency to not make choices for myself. I want to leave the big decisions to other people. So, for example, about 3 or 4 times in my marriage, I said, this isn't working. I think we should get a divorce. What do you want to do? And I would leave it up to him, and I would give him these ultimatums like, all right, it's this or it's a divorce. What do you want to do? And he never picked divorce. So I just went along and stayed in it. So that happened about 3 or 4 times. And then what really changed is it was kind of a miraculous little story. I feel like I call it my Rapunzel moment, because in the Disney movie Tangled, when Rapunzel figures out she's the lost princess, all these little pieces come back to her and she realizes, and she's all, I'm the lost princess. So it's one of those moments with me. All these little tiny things happened where all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, he's abusive. And it dawned on me and I thought, I got to get out. So I'd had some friends come visit. No, actually what started it was I'd gone on a vacation with my kids and I just felt like I had to go on this trip. Like it was just this burning desire in me. And I just felt like I need to go on this trip. So I went on this trip and it was the most peaceful feeling I've ever had. And we had such a good time. It was me and my 2 girls and my friend and her 2 girls. And we went and saw some historical sites around the northeastern United States. And it was just so peaceful and I had so much fun. And then I came home. My ex didn't go with us. And I came home from that trip and me and my girls were just in the house by ourselves for a couple of days without him because he was on a business trip as well. And he walked in after his business trip and just started yelling at us and just being himself. And it just crushed all of the peace we'd felt. And all of a sudden the peace was gone. And I thought, oh my gosh, my life is so not peaceful because of him. And I said, can you just go back on your trip? I don't want you here if this is how you're going to act. And what are you talking about? And so I kind of just, that was kind of the first moment when I realized how unpeaceful my life was because of him and the abuse. And then we had some friends come visit us like a week or so later, and they kind of saw his behavior as well. And my friend's husband said to me, if you need to leave him, we'll help you. And I was just like, oh, thanks, appreciate that. And then we dropped our friends off at the airport, and I just had this feeling that I was going to leave him and he was going to go one place and I was going another. And I thought, well, that's really weird. And like, and I kind of like brought it up to him almost like, maybe this relationship isn't working. And he said, and he got angry. And his idea of working on our relationship after that was telling me all the things that I'd done wrong. So that was not fun. And then my mom, I don't know if I'd been complaining to my sister and she told my mom or whatnot, but my mom called me that same week and said, if you need to leave him, we'll help you. And I was like, that's 2 people in 1 week. That's odd. So it got me thinking.
So
some more.
what were they, because they were seeing something and they all volunteering to do this. What were they seeing? What did they tell you? Because based on what you were telling me, it happened within years. And let's see. Let's I'm going to play the devil's advocate right here.
Nope, go for it.
Okay. So now I'm looking at it from the other side. I'm a woman who is abused, right? I have not been abused, but I'm a woman who is abused right now. And I'm going to be like, oh, but he just hit her a couple times. Oh, he didn't put her in the hospital. Oh, he didn't humiliate her. This is what they're thinking right now, and their silence is even greater because they're like, she don't know what I went through.
Yeah, they probably think I don't understand.
Right, because people want to see your face bust up. They want to see you drugged up. They want to see you so messed up that you are no good to yourself. But just because you have a voice, you have people that actually were paying attention. They're like, how can I help you? So my question is, what did they saw? Because a lot of people try not to see. What did they see?
Well, I think that's another reason why I didn't talk about it either, is because nobody could see how bad it was. They couldn't see the bruises. They couldn't see this, they didn't see it. So I thought, I'm not abused. It's not bad. I can handle this. And what my family saw was he was mean. He was so mean. He would help himself only. Like I remember we'd go to my friends that came and visit us, we would go to their house and he would get out of the car and just go in the house and I'd be carrying the kids and the food and the bags and everything. You know, he's very selfish that way. So they could see that something wasn't quite right there. And then one of the things that set when my friend told me, if we need to help you, we will, was when I gave my ex $20 because I said, oh, here's a $20, and he lost it. And oh my goodness, he yelled at me, you made me lose that $20 bill. And I was like, I didn't make you lose anything. And he just screamed and screamed. And then my friend's husband and my ex went on a trip or went to the gas station. The whole way there, he said, all I heard about was how you lost this $20 bill, Kelly. And he was just mean and just yelling and screaming. So they saw little weird kind of behaviors that weren't quite right. They could tell he didn't treat me right. They didn't see all of the mean things he would say to me. They didn't see that he would tell me all the time that if I would just get a tummy tuck, I would be fine. Oh, my boobs are saggy. I should probably get those lifted. You know, your nose is a bit too big. Your butt's kind of saggy. We should probably get that fixed. They wouldn't hear him say that you're a terrible mom. Your kids behave horribly because you're an awful mom. They didn't hear him say that I'm a terrible housekeeper, that people don't like me. I have no friends. I mean, I can go on and on. He just was continually just putting me down. They didn't hear all that. They didn't see how he would accuse me of cheating constantly, how he would control all the money. I couldn't go buy my kids school clothes. They didn't see all of that. So, I mean, it's easy to say I wasn't abused, but if I told you all the little things that happen constantly, you'd be like, oh my gosh, that's not right. And that's what my family saw. They just saw the little things where it wasn't quite right. And then, so right before I left though, my friend, I hadn't talked to her in 10 years. She messaged me out of the blue and said, I just feel like I'm supposed to tell you to leave your husband. And I thought, wait, what? I haven't talked to you in 10 years. She didn't know anything. And I think she said, I feel like your husband's like mine. She's like, I left mine because he was abusive. And she's like, I feel like you're in the same boat. And I was like, that's so weird. So I decided, you know what? There's something to this. If all these people are saying he's a terrible person and they're noticing all this and they're offering to help me, it must be very bad. So I went to a counselor because after my ex had punched me in the face, I took him to a counselor and we went twice. And so the counselor met him, but my ex just said, he's just after our money. He's not going to help us. So we stopped going. So I'd been to him, I knew. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this one last try and I'll see. Because my ex always said, we'll get help. We'll go to counseling. And he always claimed he had PTSD, which he didn't. It was just a very good excuse for his behavior. And I believed it, you know, so he always claimed he had PTSD and I'll get help. And he never did. So I thought I'll give him one last chance. And I called the counselor's office. I worked it out with our insurance. And then I said to my ex, I said, hey, guess what I did today? Called the insurance. Let's go to counseling. And he said, this was what was the moment where I was like, all right, we're done. I said, let's go. We got the counseling's paid for. And he said, I don't need counseling. And I thought, okay, I have done everything I can do to help you. If you aren't willing to help yourself, there's nothing more I can do. I've tried and tried and tried. We're done. Because for all those times he said, oh, I'll get help. And then when I finally offer it, I don't need counseling. So that was just the moment where I thought, all right. So I went to my counselor. I said, I'm thinking of leaving my husband and I just don't know what to do. And I feel like a terrible person because I just thought that was the worst thing that could happen was me leaving my husband. And I felt sorry for him. I thought, oh, he's going to be so lonely and alone when I leave. That was my thought. And my counselor gave me the statistics on divorced children and what happens to children from homes where their parents are divorced. And I just thought, he's trying to talk me into staying. What the heck? And then he said that the children from homes like mine, where the dad's abusive the way he is, he said, those children, the statistics are just the same, only worse. So he said, your children will be better off away from him and with your family where they can see a stable home environment and they'll be happier. And he said, so I thought, okay, I guess I'm going to leave him. But I told him, I said, it's not going to happen for a while. We've got things I want to do and I like my life. So
Yeah, we wait.
book
Yeah,
and I read it and
you
I
got
remember
cut
the
off for a
first,
while. You got cut off for a while,
oh
so we
no,
didn't hear you were gone from
oh
us.
wow, oh no, which part did we end on? Did
Um,
you hear the part where my counselor gave me the book? Oh no.
Sophia.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you. Sophia, you are mute.
Yes. Hi.
You had a question for her?
I the part where you stop was when you tell him this is not going to happen right now. I have something that I have to work on before I leave. That's where you stop.
Oh, okay, got it. So he said, well, he's not going to change. You know that, right? And I said, I know. And so he said, well, in the meantime, he said, here's a book I want you to read. And it was called Healing from Hidden Abuse by Shannon Thomas. And I read that book, and the first chapter says that people like my ex are mean on purpose, and they do it on purpose. And I was reading this book and I thought, oh no, my ex doesn't do this on purpose. He doesn't do this on purpose. He can't help it. And I thought, but I'll keep reading this book because it probably has good advice in it. So I kept reading, and the more I read, the more I realized, oh my goodness, my ex is abusive. I've been abused for years, and he does it on purpose.
Wow.
You guys are frozen. Can you hear me?
Wow. I am here. You can see me?
Oh, good. So I just thought, oh my goodness, he's abusive. And I'm like, it was like this moment where I could see everything that he'd done. It was my Rapunzel moment. And I was like, oh my gosh. And that book had conversations and things that he'd said word for word in there. And I was like, my whole marriage is in this book. I'm like, I've been a victim of abuse. What the heck? And so from that moment on, I thought, I don't owe him anything. I'm like, he's had his chance. I'm done. And from there, it was about 2 weeks and I left my ex. So it went really fast once I realized and I was like, okay, wait, this is not good for me. He's abusive and I'm done. So once I had that aha moment, I was out of there within 2 weeks.
Wow. 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 I had to take a breather right there. Yep.
Kelly.
Yes.
I have to say that I admire you in the sense of the day of my wedding. When you said that piece for your wedding, I stopped right there for a minute. The day of your wedding, everything is over. You jump in the car, and instead of he being romantic and all this thing, he start yelling, "You are not a princess." Okay? At that point, I'm thinking, divorce, attorney, because you are a princess. This is your day. And when he did that, I thought, okay, I have never heard that.
Oh no, I'm not a princess. I'm a queen.
You know, so
but she said she's a queen.
You are. But and then I love the part where he will do something and then he will apologize. You stayed 12, 13 years because he apologized. If he didn't apologize, you would have left before. But he have the mind game of...
You're muted, Kelly.
So he apologized a lot.
Kelly, you're mute. You're on mute. Yeah, you are on mute still. Let me see if I can unmute you.
There we go. The volume went really quiet on you guys. I can't really hear you.
Yeah. So yeah. Can you hear me?
It's very, very quiet. It's like it's on a speaker or it's not on a speaker or something.
Did you receive you on your phone? Did you receive a phone call or some kind of message?
Oh, it must have done a phone call. Yeah.
If you
told you guys I'm terrible at this.
If you did, the audio will go down when you get in a phone call or you get in a message while you are live. The audio will go down.
Oh, that's what. I'm sorry. See, I'm so not technologically inclined.
That's fine. That's fine. So what did you heard that Sophia said? She was telling you something. What was it that you heard? No,
I heard her saying that where's my video now? I heard her saying that that I stayed because he apologized. Right? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Is that?
Yeah. No, that's the thing. I think we're taught that if you apologize, that it's okay, it's all better now, and we need to recognize that he's got to back that up with action. And I mean, I feel like I'm very good at not holding grudges, but I've let people walk all over me because I thought, they said sorry, we're okay now. So I mean, and recently I had a friend do something that was not okay. And I had to say, I'm sorry, I don't want to be around you anymore. And she's still friends with all of my friends. And so that's been really hard for me, thinking, well, I don't want to tell my friends who they can be friends with, but I don't want to be around her. So if they're still going to hang out with her, then I mean, and that's fine if that's what they want to do. But because I've had this issue in the past where I've just forgiven as soon as someone said sorry, I've just thought, you know what? No, I just can't keep letting toxic people into my life just because they say sorry, you know?
That's
So
right.
I've kind of just, I've closed my little circle and made it closer, but it's better for me. So, I mean, I'm sorry I have to like exclude people from my life, but that's a boundary. I think boundaries is a huge thing that people in relationships like mine and toxic relationships, they don't have good boundaries. And
Mhm.
so that's been like the number one thing I've had to try and learn to how to put boundaries and how to defend those boundaries.
So one thing that I'm actually paying attention to what you just said, because the title is Life After a Toxic Relationship. So one of the things that you are learning now is boundaries. You are
Mhm.
actually learning to say no,
Yes.
So what are some more things then that you have learned to do after all of this? What is making you be better? And before you answer that, let's put that on the side. What I will say, if you look back now that you are a queen and you were denied the princesshood once, if you look back, what were the signs of the abuse? What was the signs that you see? Because if you go back and you look, there was some signs. So what was those signs that you saw that you will be able to tell you a young girl or somebody that this is the sign? Be careful with this. What was that sign that you saw?
So because I didn't know what I know now, I didn't see any signs, you know, it was nothing. But now I look back and I think, all right, it was a long distance thing. I've noticed that toxic people love long distance relationships and they love fast relationships because they're able to hide their true selves. So if they do it long distance and he's just writing an email or texting or talking on the phone to me, he can say whatever he wants and I don't get to see him in action. And also, if we do it really fast, do like a really quick relationship, I don't see him in action. You know, I don't have to see his true self because he can pretend who he wants to be for a
Yeah.
couple months, you know, because we did the long distance thing and then we got married. Then when we got back together after being apart for a long time, we got married within like 2 months. Like, let's just hurry and get married. And I thought if I had this to do over again, I would make him wait. And because I remember saying a couple times during my marriage, had we waited longer, we would probably not have gotten married. So
Yeah.
don't anyone that rushes into a relationship, and I get it, you're in love, you think, oh, he's the one, and I just know we're going to get married, so why wait? But if he's the one and it's right, he'll wait for you.
Yeah.
So quick
Yep.
relationships, just zipping off to get married as quick as you can. And then another one is the long distance thing. Like if if you don't see someone every day in their element and where they're living and how they interact in your life with you, then you're not going to know the real person. Because I do know that when we first started dating, we were living in the dorms and we were in college and I didn't have a job and we would just hang out all the time and had all this time to be together. And then when we got back together after being apart, we got married really fast. I had bills to pay. I had a job. I had a house to take care of, you know, and I was busy. And he always just like, oh, you're not paying attention to me. You're just worried about everything else. And I thought, well, yeah, I'm an adult. We got an adult here. And, you know, but I think had we been able to interact in a daily adult life, that would have probably showed me a little bit more about him as well.
Yeah.
Another thing was one of our arguments that we had, which now I look at it and I think, okay, that was a red flag, but it wasn't at the time, is I was planning on going on a trip with my friends for spring break, and he wanted to take me on a vacation to meet his family and go here and there with him. And I thought, but I want to go on spring break with my friends, you know, I really wanted to. And he said, no, I don't want you to go. And he had all his reasons why he didn't want me to go, but he was very adamant about it. And we got in a big fight over it because he didn't want me to go. And he used the excuse that I wanted you to come with me. I wanted you to be with me. And I thought, oh, well,
Manipulation.
yeah. And at the time it was, oh, well, it was cute. And now I'm like, and it was sweet of him. And he just wanted to be with me. And now I'm like, wow, that was really controlling. And I can see it was,
Yes.
he didn't want me doing anything that he wasn't in charge of and he had no control over it's spring break in Florida with my friends. He had no control over what I would do. And I could tell that. Now I'm like, oh, that's why he was upset. And then I remember
So
there
did you
was another thing. It was a couple.
you went with your friends or you went with him?
I went with him. Yep. And my friends recently posted the pictures from that trip again and said, oh, we should do this again. And I'm thinking I should have gone with them back then. Darn it. But but another thing that I noticed too was he did that controlling thing again. It was a couple weeks before my wedding. I was throwing a bridal shower for my friend, and I had to go out of town to do that. And he was livid. He just thought, why are you focusing on her wedding and not your own? You should be here with me. And he was really mad that I was down on that trip. And now I look back and think, wow, that was controlling. Why didn't I see that? And it was this big fight because he wanted me to be doing stuff with him and not with my friends. And that's another thing they like to do. If they're a toxic person, they try and isolate you from your friends. And I mean, if I look back, he'd already started that. He didn't want me to go on a vacation with my friends. He didn't want me down there planning, doing a bridal party and a bachelorette party with my friends. So I mean, all these little things and he also, another thing that wasn't necessarily a red flag, but I should have paid a little more attention to it, is he came from a really rough background. And like I said, I was very sheltered. So my life was very different from his. His parents were drug addicts. He'd bounced around, until he was raised by his grandma. He bounced around a little bit when he was younger, and then his grandma raised him. And then he had some other issues. And I think I overlooked those because we both went to the same church and he was active at church. And so I think in my mind, I thought, well, he's overcome all that. He's a great person because he's active at church. So I kind of gave him a pass. And I didn't realize how much his past would affect our relationship because I just kind of glossed over it and thought, well, he goes to church, so we're fine. So that was kind of something I should have paid more attention to and thought, because I mean, if I look at my childhood wasn't bad, but there's things from my childhood that's affected me as an adult. So why wouldn't his really huge traumatic past have an effect on him? So, but I mean, I was really young back then, so I just didn't realize that kind of stuff. So, but those were just some of the red flags that I look back now and I'm like, oh yeah, should have recognized that. And so
it sounds like he had also, like, because of his past, since a fear of abandonment. So it was mostly on the control part, like, if you go with them, then you don't love me, kind of a deal.
Yep.
And you had to be there when he wants you to be there. That's the only way you're going to show me your love, kind of a deal. Because I did meet some of the people like that. I remember I went on a date with this guy that is like, I value men, blah, blah, blah. And I was a single mom. And we had a date, we met, and we were really nice and everything. And then he took the menu from me, right? He says, I'm going to order. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm going to order my own food. And he was like, that is the gentleman thing to do. I'm like, that's okay. I grew up as a tomboy. You don't need to be a gentleman. I can order my own food. And then after that, I let it pass. I really like him. I mean, he was hot. He was so hot. But then before the second date, which was the next weekend, I got a package at home with a very fancy, expensive dress. Okay. And he said, put this on when I pick you up. I was just like, I was like, why would he buy me? I don't even know him. He's buying me this dress, right? So I didn't put on the dress. I had picked the dress that I wanted. He come down. He have this big fancy sports car. I come out of the house with the dress that I want. He have a fit. He looked at me and he said, didn't I told you to put on the dress that I bought? Did you got the package? First, he was nice. He said, did you got the package I sent? And I says, yes. Did you see what was in the package? I said, yes. So why you didn't wear it? I said, because I want to wear what I want to wear. And then he said to me, why would you do that? That is not the way that's supposed to. I mean, like, he just went on and I'm like, do you want to have a date or you don't want to have a date? Because we can cut this right here. This is what I tell him, right? And he was like, do you know how many women would like to be with me? You know that you are a single mom. I'm like, I am very clear about being a single mom. And guess what? Now we are not going to have a date. He said, no. I'm sorry. I had a bad day and all that kind of stuff. I said, I'm dressed up. I'm going to call one of my friends and we're going to go to the club. bye. I told him like this. And he just got a fit. He called me all the time. He apologized. He called me, please forgive me. Let's have another date and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, because I saw the sign, because I see another woman, not because I was so smart, because I seen a lot of women that this happened to. And he felt because I was a single mom, I can do whatever I want with you. And I am a high value man. So, ladies, if you are listening, cut this crap about all these people telling you that women, single mom cannot find high value men. They are out there, but a lot of them can be pretty jerks. So you got to pay attention to what is it that you want, not what they want, but what you want and how that is going to respond to you and to your children. If I have gone with that guy, years later, I saw him with a woman at the mall and I felt so bad for her. And he said to her, you know, I should have married her. He's telling the woman that he's married to, I should have married her instead of you. What a poor choice I did. He told her in front of me, and I said, no, you didn't make the poor choice. She made the poor choice. I told him like that. And I just wanted to cry. And I picked her on the side and I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you're going through this, but you need to leave. And he was like, why would you give that advice? I said, because you're a jerk. I told him. And he laughed like nothing happened. He said, you see, that's why I love you. That's it. Like nothing happened. But I had to be able to see that, to be able to know what happened. So I am saying this because I'm saying the ladies that are listening, we have all, I just didn't learn that moment. I had many experiences before I was a single mom. And those experiences says, be careful here, be careful here, be careful there, right? And I got excited with all of those experiences. So I'm so happy that you were able to see all of those patterns and finally walk out. Because right now, if you didn't walk out, you will have a busted face. You will be worse off because you didn't pay attention to the whole thing. So I'm like Sophia said, I am so proud of you.
Oh,
So
thank you.
proud of you. So proud of you. And if you can see the points, the issues that, the patterns that were there, then the next man in your life will be amazing because you will be able to eliminate really fast. Eliminate whatever's no good. That right?
Yes, and I'm so glad I can see it. And it's as you were saying that you're sitting there and he's saying this to you, I was thinking of myself in that situation. I thought, wow, that's amazing. She could say, I could do that now, but back then I couldn't. And I think back then I thought, you know what, I wouldn't have been able to do it back then because I would have thought, what if nobody else is out there for me? What if nobody else likes me? And I've had to realize even now, like with just dating and stuff, if a guy does something I don't like and acts like that or something, I think he's not the last man on earth. So see you later. And
Yeah.
but when you have low self-esteem and you don't feel like that about
Right.
yourself, it's very
Right.
hard to just be
Very
like
hard.
to say no, I peace out, I'm done, you're a jerk, So it's
Yeah.
amazing you could do that. Like so, and
Thank.
honestly, like I don't think I would have people unless like we're sitting here talking about it, telling each other these are the signs, and you're telling that story, and I'm horrified because I'm like, oh, this and this and this and this. Back then, I didn't know that, and so just even telling them and pointing out these little things that were wrong and saying, hey, he's not the last man on earth. You'll find someone else. That's so
Yes.
helpful for someone who just has never, just doesn't know. And just, I feel like you don't know unless you're told. So that's why I'm like, we're telling people.
Yes, and that's
Kelly,
why I bring it up because we need to talk about it, and a lot of other people don't. Just like I bring up the part of my date, not because I was so wise, but because I hear it all the time. The woman said, "Oh, he said like this. Oh, he said like that," and I just went with him, and I went with the date. I said that was the wrong. You already went in. No, but he was so romantic. So I'm mentioning it because it happened very often. Not, and especially if they're high value men, they're going to do it because they believe your job is to shut up, look good, and do what I tell you. And a lot of the women comply with that, but later they want to complain because they wanted a high value man. So that's why I'm bringing it up because high value men going to cost you your self esteem. Okay, I'm not saying all of them. Let me fix that. I'm not saying all value men, but most of them. Okay, because they already gained so much in the world and they have so much money and whatever control. They're like, all I need is a woman to breed. All I need is for a woman to look good for me because there's so many women who want to be with me. Especially, I'm going to mention it here, and I shouldn't, but I will. There's a guy that I listen to from time to time. His name is Kevin Samuels, and he make me struggle a lot because he helped women find high value men, right? And the advice that he be given, it is so heavy. I am thinking, how can these women listen to this guy? But I listen to him because all those women listening to him, they're real. It's not fake. It's real. They are out there. And their self-esteem, a lot of them have very low self-esteem. And these conversations that we are having now is going to be able to help women like that understand you can do this. You can do this. Sophia, you had a question?
Kelly, I wanted to, if I had champagne, I will be celebrating you right now. And I'll tell you why. It's okay. We learn as we go. People forget that. We're young, we're in love, we don't see it straight. It's okay. We learn as we go. But I want to commend these people that tell you, if you want to leave, I will help you. These people that tell you, I remember telling one time, I tell one of my family members, yeah, he's abusive. I really don't want nothing to do with him. And she said, nonsense. He changed. She don't live with him. I do. So I commend the people that saw you and tell you, I got you.
Mhm.
Those are people that you want to keep in your life
That's right.
because regardless of the show that he put on, they saw you. They care
Mhm.
for you. They love
Mhm.
you. They said, if you're ready, we ready.
That's right.
And don't get me started with that priest, pastor, whoever that. Please don't tell me his name. Don't tell me where he's from. Don't tell because the, the first thing we do is we go to the priest, the pope, the pastor, hoping that he will help us because we are the woman. Okay? He punched me. Help me. When you call him back, he said he don't remember. Honey, don't tell me where he is. Okay? Don't tell me
That's what
where
my
he
dad
is.
said too. My dad said, do I need to call him? And I was like, no, it's fine.
Oh, please tell your father to call him because that's the only proof you had. After all of these years where you put up with everything, this is the only proof that you have. And for him to say, oh, well, I don't remember.
He he didn't want to get dirty. He didn't want to get
You know, I
dirty.
did
That's it.
learn though throughout that. I realized because I've had a couple other people, because I feel like when church is like a huge part of your life and you're taught that, you know, to go to the pastor or the bishop or someone for counseling, you know, you feel like that's who you should go to and maybe they can help you. And I've learned and I realized, I should say, that they're wonderful people, but they're not trained. And, you know, I don't think they deal with, and at the time I gave him the benefit of the doubt and thought, well, he probably doesn't deal with this domestic violence stuff very often. He didn't know how to react, you know, but and so I kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt until he said that later. And so but I realized that we need to, like, there's domestic violence hotlines, there's numbers to call, there's people to go to. I've realized that although we feel like the church is going to be the people that we need to go to, they're not trained. They're not the ones you should go to. They really aren't that helpful. So the best thing to do is find a trusted friend, like my friends were in my family, or call like a hotline, call the police. And I know that's very hard to do. So I do understand that. But usually I've just from stories I've heard is that church people aren't the best people to go to for when you're having
But
this kind of
Kelly,
issue.
you said
I
something. You said something that is so priceless. I hope everybody listen. You said, because I kept quiet, because I said nothing, okay? He looked good.
Mhm.
He looked good. He
Yep.
looked decent. He looked nice. He looked like, oh, he is so wonderful. Because, and I hope everyone learn wherever we are in the relationship. Say something. Say, say something to more than one person and say something to someone that don't belong to the
That's
church.
right. That's right.
Okay. Don't belong to, say something, because the only proof that you had backstab you.
Yes.
I had really bad advice early on in my marriage, and it was how don't go talking to family members about the issues you have with your spouse, because your family members are not going to forgive them as easily as you will. And if it's just a little spat, you don't want to have your family thinking bad of your spouse. So try and keep it just in your relationship. And so that was some bad advice I got. And so I just thought, oh, I don't want my family to hate my spouse just over these little arguments we have. So I stopped telling them stuff because I thought, oh, I'll keep it between us, because I
That's a good
thought
point.
I don't want them to hate him, and I'm going to get over. I'll forgive him quicker than they will. So I won't tell them because I just to keep the peace. So FYI, that's terrible advice. Do what Sophie said and tell people.
I
If
want
you're
to be
having issues,
honest with you. Thank you for saying that piece. I was in the baby shower, bridal shower of my daughters because she was getting married. And one of my family members came up to her and told her, whatever happened in your marriage, don't tell your mother, nor your father, nor none of your family members, because they will hate. I was so mad. Even until this day, I have not forgiven her. You know why? Because I knew that when you keep it between you and yourself, the abuse is there. But we don't say nothing because it teaches us keep everything
Yep.
quiet. If you
Yep.
get beaten, if you get a shove, if you get a push, if you get the insult, the verbal abuse, don't say nothing. Keep
Yep.
it between, and that's how the men's look good.
Yeah. My mom was abused for years, but because she wanted to keep a husband and look good, she stayed. My aunt was abused by her man, and this was like we will call it military here. And he abused her for a while. He told her what to wear, what she's going to eat, what she's going to put on, and she stayed with him for a while. When she actually decided to walk out, everybody want to talk about her, but then everybody don't know your story. Same thing happened to my other aunt. Same thing, because you're trying to get ready for the Jones, what the Joneses are going to say, what everybody's going to say. People are going to say I failed. People are going to say I'm no good. People are going to look at me bad. And all of that happened because just trying to keep it quiet and don't say anything. And everybody is guilty of that one, in the part of saying that, because I'm sure that I have saying it. I'm sure that many of us have saying it. Just keep it in, between you and your husband. But right now, if you were to give, I know you mentioned it already, but right now look into the camera and tell a woman that have heard that advice, and she's just like, nope, I should not be sharing anything with anybody. And all, what advice would you give her?
write it down. If you're not going to share it with anyone else, write it down. Make a note, screenshot it. Like you can make a note and then screenshot the date and timestamp if you have to, because I'm not a big journaler, but I'll take notes on my phone. But if you really just don't want to tell anyone and you're just because I feel like everyone has to get to that point. It's like the statistic that says that abused women will try 7 times before they actually leave. It's because they're not ready. So if you're not ready to tell people, I wish you would. But if you're not ready to tell people, write it down. Then you'll at least have documentation. I mean, that will help more than anything. So write it down if you're not ready to talk about it. Because there was one person that I did tell when things were bad, and I was talking about going to the counselor with him or whatnot, and I did mention that he had punched me in the face, and she looked horrified. But guess whose side she's on right now? She's on his side, and I'm thinking, he punched me in the face, but she's believed whatever he's told him, and she's on his side, I guess, But so you got to make sure you're telling the right people. My sister has a saying that like not everyone's your friend. She's like, you can be friendly, but not everyone's your friend. So
That's
just make
right.
sure if you're telling someone, it's the right people to tell. And I'm not saying trash talk on your husband constantly, because obviously that's not good. But when it's the big things, and if you're having a big fight and you're thinking, oh, I don't want my family or my friends to hate him, find a trusted friend that you can talk to about that stuff and talk about it. Because then you're going to get an outside perspective. So I feel like too, when you're in a relationship, you're just bouncing ideas off of each other, and it can get your world's a little small that way. And you need to like talk to others and kind of just get more, and I don't want to say be influenced by the outside, but you can see other perspectives.
Right, right. I totally agree. You have to keep track of it because otherwise it get worse. Sophia, you wanted to say something?
Kelly, congratulations. And I will drink some champagne in Kelly's name.
Oh, thank
And I will too, but even though I don't drink, but yes.
you. I don't either. So
But no, just to finish up, we talk about life after a toxic relationship. So, what is life now as a single mom after all that experience? What is your life like now?
crazy. Um, there's some people that go into single motherhood on purpose and they wanted that and that's what they want. I never wanted to be a single mom. I wanted my fairy tale. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom with 5 kids. Um, I think I've been a stay-at-home mom maybe for 2 years total out of the 10 years I've been a mother. And so life now is so much happier. I've got a lot of help from my family. My parents and my brothers and sisters help me out a ton. Um, I've been able to go to school and open my own business, which never would have
Mm.
happened before. So that's amazing. Um, I spend my money on whatever I want. That's been really nice. I didn't get to do that before, and I always felt like I was so poor and I just couldn't spend my money. And now I budget and I have the money that I need to do the things I want. And I take care of myself now. That was a big thing. When you're in a toxic relationship, self-care is a 4-letter word, and you just don't take care of yourself. And it was funny because I was dating and I was doing online dating, and they always say, "What do you like to do for fun?" And I don't do a ton of stuff. I like watching movies and whatnot. So I asked my mom, I said, I don't know how to answer that. What do I do for fun? And she said, oh, I know what you do for fun. You go to the spa, you get your hair done, you get your, she's like, you take care of yourself. I was like, that is what I like to do. So I take care of myself now. So things are a lot busier. I wish I could be at home with my children more. That's always the number one goal, but I'm with them as much as I can, and life works and I have help. And so life, the one thing though that I would say after a toxic relationship is get help. So I remember thinking that I'm a good reader. I read everything and I'm pretty smart and I can read things and internalize them and apply them to my life. And so I just thought, oh, I've got all these self-help books, I'll be fine. And so I didn't think I needed counseling. I thought I could just counsel myself and listen to like podcasts and just different shows like yours, and it would be great. And that is all very helpful. But I had one really bad day where I was just screaming and crying, and I realized, it dawned on me, okay, I can't do this on my own. So I got a counselor, and I've been doing counseling, and I do that a lot. So but I did that because I thought, I don't want to get in the same situation. And he should not have treated me that way. But what was I doing that
Yes.
attracted that kind of person and got me in that situation? And I
Hmm.
want to fix that so the next man I marry or date or whatnot
That's
isn't the
right.
same, and I don't put myself right back into that situation. So after a toxic relationship, take care of yourself and get help. That's my number one thing.
Oh, you just did that powerfully. You closed it so good. So good. Oh,
Oh,
you could
thank
not have said it any better. Seriously. I'm not trying to just prep you up. That is an amazing closing. Take care
thank
of
you.
yourself because a lot of people do not want to look back and get ready. I mean, yes, it takes two to tango, and it will not. He would not be able to do so much if you didn't allow it. So for
Mhm.
you to be able to admit that at some point and be able to say, "Hey, let me look at this so that I don't repeat the same mistakes," right? Because a lot of people, they will have that experience and come out and immediately they jump into another one. Because I know people that have done that. Oh, he
Yep.
abused me. They get all this help and all the kind of stuff. And then a couple of years later, they started dating the same man. He's so romantic. He's so amazing. Boop, boop, boop. It get beat up again. And the same thing start over again. And then by that time, you're not going to get people volunteering to help you because they was like, she always go into the same thing.
Yep.
I'm not even going to look at her anymore, you know? So the fact that you are able to say that, just really look at yourself and get that help that you need, that is just commendable for sure. Very
Thank you.
commendable. Yeah, love it. This was like a really amazing conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to share that with us. If you are listening and you want to connect with Kelly, You can find her in Instagram. I will be putting the link at the bottom of this what we call this video, this live, this talk, whatever it is, if you are listening to this. And then after, you can also, if you are an expert in a particular area and you want to share your story, or if you're a man that have an opinion and want to share that opinion with us, get in touch with me at info at my, what is it? Wait a minute. Let me start over. Info at singlemom. That today I have so much emails in my head. Info at singlemom. That today. The other person that you have here is Sophia London. She's a life coach, and her information will also be at the bottom. But if you are a single mom right now, I can tell you, just like Kelly was saying, analyze what went wrong in your relationship before. Is there's a pattern of things that you did wrong? You want to fix them, because if you keep doing the same things over and over, it's not wrong anymore. It started to become stupid. And I know I'm really bold in the way I talk, but it's the reality. You do it once, it's okay. You do the same thing again, it's starting not to be okay. You do it a third time, it's starting to be stupid. Okay, so fix it. Look at it, the issues that you have. That's all. That's what I had to do. Before I was picking up the same kind of men all the time. That's what I learned. It's not like I'm so smart or whatever. No, I just keep seeing my patterns of what I pick up in men, and I change that pattern because I changed me. That's what Kelly said. Kelly talked about boundaries. She talked about her ability to say no now and even get rid of friends that are not useful. You need to do that a lot too. Okay. So if you do that, believe me, you will have much better healthy life, a healthy mom. You're going to be able to raise successful children because you are successful. You cannot build successful children if you are not working on yourself. That is the magic of it here. So before I shut up, I'm going to have Kelly close with a smashing closing, and then I'm going to click the button and I am going to shut this down because I want her to have the last word.
Oh, thank you. I'm just so grateful that you had me here and that I can share my story, because I always felt like I was the only one and I was alone, because people like me don't talk about it. And so we all feel like we're just the only one it's happening to. So I'm so grateful that you were just giving me the opportunity to share my story so everyone else knows that they're not alone either. It happens to so many more people than we think. And so I've learned with all of this to just be a little bit kinder to everyone, because you have no idea what's going on behind closed doors. So, but thank you so much for